Subtitled by Alternate.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un attended a live fire test of multiple rocket launcher systems, together with his teenage daughter, according to state media. His presence there, according to analysts, is likely a response to the ongoing U.S.-South Korean military exercise, which North Korea considers a rehearsal for invasion. The official Korean Central News Agency reported that Kim Jong-un observed the exercise, which involved 12 high-precision 600mm caliber rocket launchers off the eastern coast of North Korea. If this weapon is used, the opponent's military infrastructure within its range will never be able to survive, Kim said. It is noted that North Korea conducts test launches of a wide range of ballistic and other missiles. For more than 2 decades, it has been striving to develop means of delivering nuclear weapons, which it is believed to have already successfully built. 4 days ago, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, along with his teenage daughter, were seen shooting pistols during a visit to a weapons manufacturing plant. This visit is part of the regime's efforts to modernize the country's conventional military forces after years of intense focus on the nuclear program. Vladimir Putin is tightening the noose around Russian oligarchs, asking them for voluntary contributions to fill the budget gaps created by the long war in Ukraine. The message is twofold. The war will continue until the complete occupation of Donbass, and the billionaires will pay the cost. In a closed meeting with the cream of the Russian business elite, Putin directly requested contributions to the state budget. At the same time, defense spending skyrocketed by 42%, reaching 13.1 trillion rubles last year. It was the first time that the Russian president himself personally made such a request to the oligarchs, signaling that their patriotic participation in financing the war is no longer optional. It was the first time Russian president personally made such a request to the oligarchs, signaling that patriotic participation in financing the war is no longer. He considered it a red line and led to the abandonment of this idea. Now the bloody confrontation with drones at the front has slowed the advance of Russian forces and has skyrocketed the losses, increasing the need for even more resources. The latest attempts at peace talks collapsed in January, as Kyiv rejected Moscow's territorial demands, and Putin insisted on the goals he set when he launched the invasion in February 2022. The U.S. Air Force has launched its first permanent deployment of 5th-generation F-35A fighter jets at Misawa Air Base in northern Japan, following the January announcement that the service was preparing to transition the base to support a permanent presence. 48 F-35A fighter jets to replace 36 older 4th-generation F-16CJ fighter jets. This will represent the largest concentration of permanently deployed U.S. Air Force fighter jets in East Asia. The transition away from the aging F-16s is expected to revolutionize the combat capabilities of the U.S. Air Force. In a region of very high priority, close to China, North Korea, and the Russian Far East, the plans to replace the F-16s of the 35th Fighter Wing were first announced in July 2024. Commenting on the deployment, the commander of the 13th Fighter Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel John Whitmer, noted, regarding the transition from the F-16 to the F-35, the stealth capability is obviously one of the biggest things, with the F-16CJ being heavily specialized for suppression of enemy air defenses operations. Lieutenant Colonel Whitmer assessed that the F-35 would enhance these capabilities. Referring to operations aimed at the suppression or destruction of enemy air defenses, known as Wild Weasel missions, he noted, "The F-35 was built to our specifications to be a Weasel platform." He continued, "Where older platforms performed the Wild Weasel mission with additional sensors or weapons, The F-35 was built from the ground up as a sensor platform with the sensor fusion and the guidance capability we bring to the fight. The sensor package we bring to the fight allows us to perceive the threat and manage the entire spectrum of what the enemy is deploying against us at this moment. It is constantly updated, constantly upgraded, and as we move forward, it's the place I want to be if I ever have to go to war, she added. The Israeli parliament approved in the early hours the draft of the state budget for 2026, which massively increases the resources allocated to defense as the country is waging war on several fronts. As part of the budget update and taking into account Operation Roaring Lion, more than 30 billion shekels, which corresponds to about 8.3 billion euros, are being added to the Defense Ministry's budget, raising it to over 142 billion shekels. The Knesset, the Israeli parliament, stated in its announcement, the members of the Knesset approved the new budget plan with 62 votes in favor and 55 against. Israel's total budget for military expenditures in 2026 amounts to about 850 billion shekels, or approximately 235 billion euros. NATO has deployed Patriot PAC-3 batteries to guard the Incirlik Air Base in Adana, Turkey, alongside the existing Spanish PAC-2 unit, the Turkish Ministry of Defense announced on Tuesday. The PAC-3 is specifically intended for defense against ballistic missiles. Turkey, which has the second-largest army in NATO and is a neighbor of Iran, stated last week that the North Atlantic Alliance had deployed a Patriot system in the southeastern province of Malatya, near a NATO radar base, as part of measures to strengthen air defense against missile threats from the war with Iran. Turkey, which has the second-largest army in NATO, that is, the measures taken at the national level for the security of our airspace and our citizens. Another system, Patriot, in a southeastern province near a NATO radar, as part of measures to strengthen air defense against missile threats from Iran. Reuters comments that Turkey does not have its own fully developed air defense, despite occasional efforts, and it has relied on NATO forces stationed in the eastern Mediterranean to intercept 3 missiles that, as reported, were launched from Iran since the start of the war. On March 3rd, another ballistic missile launched from Iran and entered our airspace was neutralized by NATO air and missile defense units deployed in the eastern Mediterranean. Contacts with the relevant country are ongoing to clarify all aspects of the incident. All necessary measures are being decisively taken against any threats to our national security, and developments in our region are being closely and carefully monitored.
China presents the Lycos robots as the
next step in the evolution of military quadruped robots, as upgraded versions of previous robot dogs. These systems are designed to enhance the capabilities of the Chinese military in the following areas. They are capable of detecting and neutralizing targets with great accuracy within seconds. They often operate in combination with mothership drones, which can carry and deploy them on the battlefield. They were showcased in military parades and exercises, such as the one with Cambodia, drawing international attention to how quickly artificial intelligence is being integrated into military equipment. Alongside the wolves, China is also actively developing humanoid robots, which have demonstrated abilities in martial arts, such as Kung Fu, as well as in border security.
Ευχαριστούμε που μας παρακολουθήσατε. Για να λαμβάνετε πρώτοι όλες τις νεότερες εξελίξεις, κάνετε like και εγγραφή στο κανάλι μας.